Hello, my name is Sandra Maresca and I am currently a painter. I'm also a communicator, and that's how I describe myself in my artist statement, because for my whole life I've been very fascinated by what communication is all about. In my first career I was a French teacher for 14 years, so I focused on communicating in another language and teaching my students how important it was to be able to understand your own language and culture by understanding that of another. For a number of reasons, I changed from that career to a business career when I was a single mom for 20 years. So for 22 years, I was in the world of business communications, and I did public relations and marketing. And a lot of that was spent in the technology world, communicating for the layman what technology was all about in the Silicon Valley heyday. That was not exactly what I call soul work, however, and in the back of my head, I always had the dream since I was a little girl that someday I would be a painter. And so I can tell you now, after the last 5 years of pursuing this dream of mine to become a painter, that painting is every bit as much as communication as I did in the other parts of my life. It's just a different kind of communication. It's also for me an incredible sense of exploration of who I am as a person, where I am in the world, and how can I communicate with people that may not speak my language or may not understand my world. And also, how can I create my own world when I look around me and listen to the news and I can't stand what I hear and see? I know for some of my fellow painters, they get that out of their system by creating political kind of paintings. I, on the contrary, don't do that because I don't want to focus any more energy on it than I have to, so I create my own world. And what I'm bringing here today to show you is a little bit of what my world is all about. I usually paint probably 3 paintings at a time. I work in oil or watercolor mostly, some acrylic, but there are several subject matters that are really fascinating to me and have been for a long time. One of them is France, because I lived in France when I was a junior at UC Berkeley, which inspired me to be a French teacher. But since I can't live in the south of France, which is where I would really love to be at any given moment, and before I die again, if somebody said, if you only had a year to live, where would you go? It would be the south of France. I can't actually live there for practical reasons, so I create my own world. And this painting, which I just finished this week, is called The Jury. And it was inspired by a picture I actually found in a cookbook on Provence. And the reason I was attracted to it was the picture that in the book was kind of nondescript, didn't have a lot of color in it and everything. But what I was trying to do there is create a narrative. I like to paint figures because there's a story in what I'm trying to paint. And these figures sitting on a bench reminded me of the direction I'm headed in as I age, and the stage of life where, you know, you're just sort of contemplating where am I and where have I been and where am I going, and then you can see these little people. This little lady is gossiping to the fellow next to her perhaps about what she sees. I also like to paint things that make me laugh or make me happy. I have a series called Animals with Attitude. My pig, which is Essence of Pig 4, was inspired by a photograph I saw in a book of award-winning farm animals, and a lot of them were being led by their owners, and it was remarkable to me how many of them looked like their owners, or the owners looked like them. So I have some of those, but I also have some where I just tried to take the animal. This is probably the fourth version I've done of this particular pig. Her real name is Little Miss Pudding. And if you can look at her face, she has drool coming out of her mouth, and she is award-winning, and to the eye of the beholder, she may not be beautiful, but she thinks she is. And so she makes me laugh. My husband often says he knows I'm doing a good painting when he can hear me giggling in my studio. However, I also work on things to work through emotions. My mother was put in a board and care for dementia a year ago this month. And she was always a very difficult person. She's only 80 years old, but she started getting this about 7 years ago. And I realized I hadn't been able to get in touch with my emotions about her, and I was all bottled up. The days that I was working on that painting, I actually started crying. I didn't even know where it was coming from. It just came up from inside of me. But it was taken from a photograph that I did of her last Christmas with the family, because now she doesn't really know who we all are unless we're actually there with her. So for me, it's been a journey, and I feel like I've come full circle with my things with France. I also have a series of paintings I didn't bring any of called the Crone series, and it's about women over 50. Webster defines us as withered old women because there isn't any other word in the dictionary to explain who we are. And I just decided I was going to paint a provocative series of paintings of famous and not so famous people I knew who were over 50 who were anything but withered. So that's where I am in this stage of my life, and I feel like I've come full circle, and I feel very, very grateful to be part of this whole organization.